entire thing?
9 minutes, including the introduction.
Yeah.
9 minutes, including the introduction. Right, perfect. Cool. So, with that, the third about 3v3 debating. Okay, tell me this. In 3v3 debating, uh, how many speakers are there in a room?
Six.
Six.
Six speakers, three from each team, right? Okay. Who would be the fourth speaker in the room?
The opposition
The
first speaker.
opposition second speaker.
The opposition second speaker, right? Absolutely right. And yeah, I think that should cover most of it. All right. So we are pretty much sorted with our compulsory rounds. Let's now go to the optionals. Okay, the first optional, which is the persuasive speech. Uh, how, how much time do we have for the persuasive speech?
8
8 minutes.
minutes.
8 minutes.
8 minutes in total, right? Perfect. Okay. In your persuasive speech, is it about anything or is it about something which is of really big significance? Like, what is it based on?
It's like a
It's a
problem
problem
solution
Keyword
solution
kind.
format.
problem followed by a practical solution.
Right? It's a problem solution speech wherein you would identify or diagnose a problem and you will give a solution for the same. Perfect. Then my next question is for the after dinner speech. For the after dinner part, how much time are we getting?
5 minutes, I think.
6
Five
minutes with
minutes.
1 minute grace, if I'm not.
Okay, 5 minutes or 6 minutes then?
I
6
think
minutes
it's
with
the
1 minute grace. You had told something yesterday.
There was a provision for grace. But yeah, what's the final answer then?
6.
6 minutes.
6 minutes, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, who says 6 minutes? Raise your hand. Do I see many hands? Probably yes. Okay, and who says 5 minutes? Okay, none of you. Great. All right, yeah, it's 6 minutes. Now, I think we are pretty much covered in terms of most of our things. Just one more thing about the after dinner part is that it's 6 minutes along with 1 minute of grace. So make sure that you're also able to utilize the grace period as well. Not not like you'll extend it every time, but the fact is that if you're getting a minute of grace, I think it can be of a really good use for you, right? So make sure that you are able to use it in some extent. And yeah, all right then. So with that, everyone, we'll just start with what we have for all of you today. Just give me a second.
Excuse me. Actually, I
Yeah.
was absent for the last session. Can you just tell me the timing for each of the speeches?
Oh, the timing. So I
Yeah.
think we have already shared the slides on the group as well. So you could
Okay.
just go through them once.
Yeah.
Uh, but even if that's the case, I'll just tell you. So for the first so there are three compulsory formats: impromptu, interpretative, debating. For the first one, which is the impromptu speaking, you will get 5 minutes to speak, and you will get only 2 minutes to prepare out of the three topics out of which you'll choose one, right? So that's impromptu.
Okay.
For interpretative, the fact is that you'll get 9 minutes to speak, and these 9 minutes would include introduction as well, right? So
Okay.
the part where you explain that, okay, who wrote this thing and what is the context behind whatever you're saying, etc., etc., including that, you'll get 9 minutes,
Okay.
right? The last part is the 3v3 debating, right? In 3v3 debating, the only thing which is different from the usual 3v3 that you see is that in this one, after 10 minutes of your preparation time, you have to give the other side, that is, if you're government side, you have to give the opposition side the motion's definition or what is the way you have defined the motion to them. All right. Apart from that, the ground rules remain pretty much the same. Then lastly, we have the optional formats, which is the persuasive one and the after dinner speaking. You have to choose one of them. For persuasive, you're getting 8 minutes to speak, and for after dinner, you're getting 6 minutes along with 1 minute of grace. So
Okay.
that's how the lineup is. Like, apart from that, if there is anything else, you can just go through the slides once, and we have also shared the recording from yesterday's session, so you could also go through that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All
Excuse
right.
me, I have one more question. For like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
persuasive speaking, do we get like a topic? Like, can we choose any topic of our choice beforehand itself?
Yep, yep. You are up to choose the topic that you want to go with
Beforehand, and we can prepare, right?
beforehand. Yes.
So just one more thing for the
Yep.
interpretative reading. Once we give our introduction and move into actually reading our piece, can we explain our version of it after, or does it have to be strictly before?
Well, it's on you the way you want to go by it. If you feel that it's better if you don't interrupt your flow while explaining things, then you can go by explaining the entire thing and then going ahead with your explanation. However, another method could possibly also look like just putting breaks in between and explaining those parts by your interpretation of it. I think we'll discuss all of that in today's session in quite more detail. So yeah, in case you have any doubt post that, you can of course ask again. All right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool. Yes, Divit.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, sir. But I remember someone asking yesterday whether, how many people are going to essentially qualify from this mode of debate and everything. So, and you said that you'd get back on that today. So, like, do we have a number? And like,
As
how
of
many?
now, since the registrations are still open, we don't have an exact number as such. But for now, but for now, what you can uh, see is that you have to make sure that you're in the top list altogether, right? We don't have an exact number as of now, or do we? I don't think we still have that number. So yeah,
Okay.
cannot comment as such.
But will we like have an idea as when we go into the tournament? Like, will we be
Yeah,
good?
probably till the time we are aware that how many students are competing in the competition, they'll probably have a number in mind.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Okay, Vaishnav Shaurya.
Uh,
Vaishnav.
so what time is this on Sunday, 23rd? It's 22nd, 23rd, right? On 23rd, for how long will this go? Like from
Okay,
what?
so I'll tell you. So this is probably also secret. So make sure that this doesn't go out anywhere else. But yeah, the thing is that we are going to release the schedule tomorrow, for both the days. But I'll tell you tentatively, it's going to be from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. right, on both the days, because on the first day you will have your individual activities. On the second day you're going to have the debate, right? So make sure that you make the slot between 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. free on both days. Cool. Yeah, sure. Yeah. All different categories combined. Cool. All right. Let's now move ahead with what we have for all of you. So great. Hi everyone. Welcome to the second day of the training session. In the first day, what we got to know are what are the exact formats in which we are going to compete. What does the format look like in terms of its rules and the a number of minutes we are going to get in each of the rounds. Right. Today's session is going to be answering the question about what exactly are you expected to do in these formats, because sir, we are still not clear about what exact thing do we have to do for the 2 minutes that you've told us, or the 5 minutes, or the 6 minutes that you have told us. You have only told us we are getting 6 minutes or 5 minutes, but what to do within those 5 minutes is something that is still unanswered. So let's answer those questions today. Yeah, I think all of you are now pretty much aware IDL is world's largest debating league in terms of numbers and also in terms of the networks that we've had, right? So I don't think it's something that is required to be repeated as such. So yeah, let's start with the format that I love the most, that is 3v3 debate. Very simple. First of all, the roles and speech expectations. The first thing that I want to clear out for a lot of you who might be doing the 3v3 format for the first time is that in 3v3 format, there is a particular way in which every speaker is expected to do something out in that particular round. So, what do you exactly mean by expecting something out? Okay, listen to this very carefully. There are going to be three speakers on both sides. Let's first of all analyze what is the way, or what is the way the debate's going to happen. It's very simple. It's first speaker on proposition, first speaker, followed by, you'll just get probably a gap of 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and you'll have the first speaker on opposition, right? So first speaker on prop, that is first speaker on for the motion, and then first speaker on against the motion, that is first speaker opposition. Then comes again a 10-second or a 15-second gap. You get the second speaker on proposition, that is the second speaker on for. Right after that, 10-15 seconds gap, you get the second speaker on opposition. Then 10-15 seconds gap, third speaker on proposition, or the third speaker for. And then lastly, you have third speaker on opposition. So get this zigzag flow very clear, first of all. That's point one. Point two, in all of these speaker roles, even if you are a team, there are different things that are expected out of you in every speaker role. So, what do you mean by expected out of us? Are we supposed to speak a particular thing? Okay, listen to this very carefully. Every speaker has to do certain things which are required at that given point of time. For example, if you are a first speaker, then we are not expecting you to give us the most uh, interesting responses to the other sides, because you don't know what the other side is going to bring, right? Especially when you are proposition first speaker or for first speaker, you really don't know what the other side is going to bring. So we are not going to evaluate you on the fact that how well did you respond to their ideas, etc., etc. Instead, then what are we then looking for? Really simple. First of all, we see how you define the motion, right? We see what is the way you go ahead and interpret it. So for example, like just an example, by the way, the example looks like this house supports globalization, say, for that matter, right? This house supports globalization. How do you define globalization? Is globalization probably is probably a leverage that the government gives to foreign companies to come and invest in their country, and for their country's companies to go and like move ahead with their business operations outside India, right? So how do you define the motion, first of all? Second, once you're done with defining the motion, you present your case, or you present your stance. What do you exactly mean by presenting your stance, sir? Really simple. That means presenting your arguments. So, as I've told you, you are either for or against. There is no neutrality. Then, if you're for, explain us what are the arguments that you have in favor of the motion. That is, number one, the reason why we should support globalization is because globalization allows more opportunities to people across the country, because they don't just have to rely on the local competitors, but also they have people outside the from outside India who are coming up with really good products, etc. So they get jobs, people get more options as consumers, can be second argument, etc., etc. So what am I doing here? I'm giving you justifications, or I'm giving you reasons to why you should make my side win. This is what you call as presenting your case, that is giving out your argument. Now, a very simple thing that I want to bring here, I think oftentimes all of us really confuse ourselves with this part, is that can someone really define what an argument actually means? Anyone? And I'm not looking for like the most perfect example on earth. Anything? Yeah, Vaishnav.
An argument is basically debunking the other person's claim. So when the government or the opposition makes a claim, you basically have to kind of analyze it, find the faults in it, and explain the fault so that the argument looks baseless and kind of useless.
Okay, so for thank you so much, Vaishnav. So for Vaishnav, the definition of argument largely looks like that if you are able to respond to the other sides and debunk their argument, that would pretty much be what you call as an argument on your side. Okay, that could be one. What about the rest? Yep, Stuti.
When two or more people like disagree with each other, and we give the reasons that to give support to your opinion, like they have to support your opinion because of some specific reasons, where two people disagree, that might be an argument.
That might be an argument. Okay, that is another way of looking at it. Okay, last, can we have Divit here?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like when we're talking about in terms of a debate, an argument essentially just refers to a claim that you make or something that a reason that you give to support the side you're supporting. So, if you're prop, then, if you're saying this house would ban globalization, for example, then you're just telling that, why it should be done. And the points that you make is essentially your argument for it.
All right, great. I think that's a really good explanation. Perfect. Okay, then. Now, I'll tell you, I think the answer to this question is that I think the closest answer that we've got is probably the one that we got just now. I think that was Divit, right? Yeah. So, argument doesn't mean your response to the other side, or it doesn't mean you debunking the other side's argument. Argument actually means what is your stance in terms of why should people even consider your point to be valid, right? So for example, if I am coming up and say, this is the example that I'm giving, a very simple example. If the topic is, this house believes that ice creams are better than chocolates, and if I am on the side of ice creams for that matter, if I'm giving an argument in favor of ice creams, that could probably look like ice creams are better than chocolates. This is the claim that I'm making because ice creams are healthier than chocolates. Now, what is the reason that I have for it? The reason that I have is that ice cream contains more milk contains more, say, calcium, and so calcium is good for your bones. And so that is why you should have more ice creams as compared to chocolates, even though the reasoning doesn't really matter for now, but just listen to the flow. So this would be my reasoning. And then the last part would be where I give an example for that. Say studies from Oxford or Harvard University says that students who consume more ice creams are healthier than students who consume more chocolates. So now, very simply put, my argument is not here to make sure that the other side loses. My argument is to make sure that I have my own stance or I have my own way of proving that what I am providing is really beneficial. So it basically means what is the reason why you should make us win, right? It doesn't come at the cost of the other side. I think what a lot of you were trying to say is basically not a definition of argument. It is a definition of what we call as rebuttals. Rebuttals basically mean your answer to their arguments. So probably the other side would also have their arguments as to, oh, why should have chocolates, etc., etc., right? Then when you are answering to their arguments as to, okay, why you should not have chocolates, what they're saying, then probably that would be what you call as rebuttals, which is what all of you were actually confusing your arguments with. So very simply put, guys, your argument should have three things to it, and listen to these three things very carefully. These are the very fundamental questions of English that you're supposed to answer in your argument. What are those questions? The first question is of what, that is your claim. That is, what am I arguing here? I am arguing that ice creams are better than chocolates because they are healthier than chocolates. So, healthier becomes my claim. So, that's point one. The second point is when I'm answering the question of why. Why is it healthier? The answer to this question is what we call as reasoning, right? So what is the reasoning behind ice creams being healthier than chocolates? The reason that that I gave is that ice creams are better than chocolates because ice cream contains more milk contains more calcium, and of course calcium is good for your bones, right? So even if you don't agree with that reasoning, that's fine. But for now, this is reasoning, right? Then comes the third fundamental question of English. We have asked what, we have asked why. What is the third question then that should be? Anyone?
How?
How?
How exactly, right? How is the second is the third question that you ask, and the answer to how is basically you is basically an example or any sort of evidence that you give for the same, right? That is what we call as cry method of argument. What is cry? C stands for claim, R stands for reasoning, and E stands for evidence. So when I say that studies from Oxford and Harvard University says that students who consume more ice creams are healthier than students who consume more chocolates, I'm giving you a backing in terms of your reasoning, or I'm giving a real life example to it, right? So this is what we call as the cry method of argumentation. All right. Gayatri, go ahead.
So I had a question. So you had said the example, you need the stats and everything. So
Right.
during the prep time, are we allowed to research for these stats, because like we wouldn't have it like memorized, or so would we be allowed to like research for the stats?
Well, not really. It would be completely on whatever thing is there in your mind or whatever fact you would remember your own self. I think I would say rely on those facts more because I would say they would be more grounded or more in reality as compared to anything else. So, for example, I just made a fact right now. It wasn't something that is publicly available or something,
Hmm.
right? But I'm not saying that you also have to make facts there. The thing is that more often than not, you would have real life examples around you where you could justify the same thing through evidence. I would say rely on those things as compared to finding something on the internet.
Yeah, and one more thing. So it's a 3v3 debate. So will we be
Right.
grouped into teams, or like do we have to do it on our own?
No, no, you would be grouped with a team of three.
Okay.
That means you along with two more.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Uh, I just saw the second speaker and the third speaker respectively have a time gap from the first speaker from the debate starts. So during that time period, can the second or the third speaker be allowed to take down notes?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Second and third speaker are very, and in fact, anyone can make notes in this particular format. I think notes are really important in this because a lot of things that you're going to get are going to be opposition sides argument that you have to note because once you note them down, you write your answers to those questions, etc. Right? So it's very important if you write those things down. So yeah, there is no prohibition at all for you to use paper and pen for this format. Okay, guys. For now, just keep your hands down. Let me just complete this format because I think there are a few more things to cover in this. It's a bit long. Post that, we'll move ahead. Right. So I think all of you are now pretty much clear in terms of what exactly do we mean by an argument. Even if you're not, we'll answer those questions later on. But for now, just stick to this. Uh, okay, so we are done with the cry method of argument. Pretty much done. Now, we define the motion first of all as four speakers. Then we come up and present our case, that is, we give our arguments. I would ideally say three or four arguments in total would be more than enough. I would say stick to three because quality of arguments matter, right? I think that matters more than anything else. Cool. Uh,
When do
for
we get the topic?
you'll get the topic on the day of the competition itself.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Now, the other thing. Now comes the first opposition speaker. So now, first opposition speaker comes at a point where they know what the other side what the other side is arguing. So the only difference between the first government speaker and first opposition speaker and rest everything remains pretty much the same is that they are going to respond or what I called as rebuttal the other side's argument, say one or two arguments of theirs. Rest, everything is pretty much the same for both the speakers. The only additional element which is going to be there for the first opposition speaker is that we are going to expect them to come up and give us rebuttals to the other side's first arguments. All right. Rest, everything is pretty much the same. That's point one. Let's come to the second government and second opposition speaker. For the second government and second opposition speaker, what do we expect out of you? Two things. Number one, we expect you to come up and clarify a few things which the other side is going to point out. So, for example, if I am the second government speaker, before me, it's going to be the first opposition speaker. I have told you that as first opposition speaker, you will get to respond to the other side's argument. That is first government speaker's argument. In the second government speaker's speech, you can come up and clarify those things as to why their responses to your arguments do not stand and we should not take them into consideration. That's point one. And point two is that why, or you can give more reasoning. So, for example, there are chances that they are going to respond to your reasoning. So, for example, if the argument was like, hey, ice cream contains more milk contains more calcium, and calcium is good for your bones. And say a very smart first opposition speaker comes up and gives an argument. What argument do they give? The argument that they give is that, or the response that they give to the argument is that, hey, even ice cream, even chocolate contains a lot of milk. So it's pretty much the same in terms of benefits. then you cannot claim the additional benefit of having more milk because both of them contain equal amount of milk. Or if in any case, chocolate would contain more milk as compared to ice creams. Then, if I'm a smart second speaker on government, I will come up and say, buddy, the difference here is not in terms of that both of them contain milk or one doesn't contain milk and the other one does. The difference here is the amount. An ice cream has a primary element of milk, which means if there is no milk, it's very difficult to make an ice cream. However, you cannot say the same for any chocolate for that matter, right? Which means what we are actually counting on is the benefit of having additional amount of milk on our side, because of which we claim that the benefits of milk is additionally going to be there on our side, because you consume more milk once you consume the same amount of ice cream as compared to a chocolate for that matter. This is how you clarify things out in terms of explaining or giving a deeper analysis to things. So, what have I now done? I have now reiterated the same argument which my first speaker did, but I gave additional difference. The additional difference or the additional explanation is that it's not just about milk, it's about the quantity of milk that you use for both of them, right? So that is second government, that is the second speaker. And similarly, second opposition speaker is also supposed to clarify a lot of arguments on their side, just in the same way. Now comes the second thing. What is the second thing? The second thing that we expect is to come up and also respond to the arguments of the other side. So the first thing that I told you is to give additional reasoning to your existing arguments and to their rebuttals, correct? You also have to respond to the other side's arguments as well. Which means, and this is the golden tip that I'm now giving. The golden tip is the most important speech for you to listen is the speaker who's going right before you. That means if you're the second government speaker, the most important speaker that you have to respond to is the speaker right before you. That is the first opposition speaker. Similarly, if you're second opposition, you have to respond to the rebuttals and to the arguments of the second government speaker. All right. So your job primarily is to clarify a lot of things, number one, and to give a lot of rebuttals to their arguments as well. That is what we expect out of you from the second government, second opposition speaker. Now comes third government and third opposition. Third government and third opposition speakers are first of all supposed to provide rebuttals, that is, answers to their arguments as to why their argument should not stand. That's point one. And point two, to come up and summarize the debate in a way which explains as to why their side wins the debate against the other side. It's a beautiful art by the end of it, where you come up and explain in a very concise way. Say, for example, if I am entering the room right while the third speech is going on and I'm listening to, say, Shaurya here, then I should be convinced by the end of Shaurya's speech that, yeah, I think their side is actually winning because he's able to summarize everything and tell me that this is the reason why they win this debate. All right. So this is what you're expected to do on your third speaker role, which is rebuttal or respond, and second, evaluate. All right. Yeah. Open for questions now. Let's have Divit first. Yes.
Yes, sir. Two things. First thing, I read on the slide, it says that the first government speaker defines the motion, and the first opposition speaker can either accept or challenge that definition that the prop has provided. Now, my
Right.
question is that, for example, you taken this example yesterday that this house would ban shooting, and you
Hmm.
said that the prop may, take this to be photo shooting rather than, animal shooting or whatever. So
Right.
now maybe the first prop speaker comes in and says that, okay, our definition is that photo shooting should be banned because it essentially violates people's privacy, and there is a lot of crime that can happen over it, and photos can be leaked online, etc., etc. But
Right.
then the opposition speaker comes in and says that, okay, we don't accept that definition because it's extremely vague, and there is a more important issue at hand, which is animal shooting or hunting or poaching. Now,
Right. Right.
if both of the sides have made their speeches on two extremely different fronts, what is the debate that is going to happen?
All right. In that scenario, first, I think first of all, it's very in an extreme circumstance which such a situation is going to occur. First of all, because I just gave you a very one-sided example that happened in like my
Yeah,
five, ten
I
years of
understand. Yeah.
experience of debating. But again, The thing that is going to happen here is that, first of all, since we expect the proposition team to give their definition beforehand to the opposition side, and that is the reason also that we have to give some amount of leeway to the proposition side here, right? Because they've already given you their definition, so it won't be like you won't know their definition at all. So we would expect you as opposition side to come up and prepare to some extent to their definition of it. That's one. Second, even if that's the case, and even if you feel that their reasoning is completely not up to the mark, then we would look at what is more likelier to be understood, or more importantly, which side has given more analysis as to which definition should they go ahead with. So we would look at the reasonings that both sides have provided to take their frame, or to not take the other side's frame then.
So it is possible for the opposition to overthrow the props like definition of the.
Yeah, it is, but again, it's very rare, and more importantly, there would be a higher leeway on this time on the opposition side, because they know the definition already. So they would be expected to prepare also to some extent.
All right, and just one more question, sir.
Yeah.
In as far as POIs are concerned, when exactly are we supposed to ask them? Do we ask them while the other speaker is talking by raising our hand, or do we ask after their speeches have ended?
So POI is okay. I did not come up with this I think till now, but I'll just bring it up again. Okay, there is a provision of what we call as POIs as well, everyone. What do we mean by POIs? POIs basically mean point of information. What is a point of information? For example, if my speech is going on, and say in between my speech I have to ask a question, in between my speech the other side wants to ask me a question. So what they will do is that they will come up and they will raise their hand. I would see, okay, okay, Raghav has raised his hand. So what I will do then is that, okay, while I'm speaking, I'll just say, okay, POI, shoot, or say, I will say, okay, I accept that POI. Then you will unmute and ask me that question. Hardly 15 seconds at max that you will get, and post that I'm supposed to give an answer to the question that you have asked. Or in case I don't want to answer that question at that given point, I can just say I'll probably answer this question later on. I have to cover a lot of things for now, right? So you
Can
can
we
dodge it as well. So it's an opportunity that the other side gets in between your speech to ask you a question.
But
we
that
can
does
take
a
verbal
complete
POIs
alignment.
as well, right?
Sorry,
Can we take verbal POIs also?
I think we are only going to take verbal POIs. What else?
So will there be a protected time though? Like the
Yes, it's going to be a protected time. Okay, for the ones who are not aware, what is a protected time? You cannot ask a POI in the first minute of the speech and the last minute of the speech. The last minute from the 5 minute mark that you're given, or say how much time you're given from that point of one. So you cannot ask them a question in the first minute and their last minute of speech. All right. Yes. Cool. Okay, guys. For now, hands down, we'll answer all those questions. I know all of you are really excited to ask a lot of questions, but for now, this is pretty much about 3v3 debating. Uh, I think roles are now very much clear to everyone as to what is expected out of them. So, more importantly, guys, more than just the preparation that you've done, and more than the things that you've already kept in your mind, it's about how spontaneous you are at that given point of time. Because you're going to be put into situations wherein, okay, my team might be losing here. What should I do that makes sure that my team is able to win this round? All those things really matter. That is what makes you a really good debater, specifically in a format like 3v3 debate. All right. Yeah. Now let's come to the second compulsory format, which is the impromptu speech. For the impromptu speech, it's really simple. Speeches must directly address the prompt. Interpretation may be literal or metaphorical. So what do you mean here? For the impromptu speech, the first thing that I've told you is that we'll give you three prompts, right? Prompts basically is the topic or the thing around which you'll be debating on, right? You have to choose one of those topics, correct? Now, the first thing here is that a lot of people, what do they do is that, okay, sir, we'll just interpret it in the way that we want to, etc., etc. The first thing that I want to clarify here is that, first of all, there is not going to be a lot of scope for interpretation in the topics. So you have to literally debate, or you have to literally give your speech on the thing that is given to you. And even if you have to make some amount of interpretation, the interpretation has to be literal and it should not be something out of the world altogether, right? It should be something which makes sense to an average reasonable voter, and that is all what we are expecting out of you. First. Second, required structure. The structure that I would want to bring in here is that a structure could look like a clear introduction. An introduction basically means you explaining what the topic is really about and why does the topic really matter to you as a person. Then, in the body aspect, developing points, 2 or 3 points. And what do I exactly mean by points? Points could probably look like arguments, and it can be arguments on either sides, right? A very clear strategy that I use is that I give arguments on both sides in such a format. Why? Because in such a format, if you have arguments on both sides, that just shows the judge that you are pretty much aware that none of the sides are really heavy on each other, and you know, or you're well versed with the fact that both sides are equally contestable, right? So I would come up with a lot of arguments on both sides. I would say 3 or 4 arguments, two on one, two on the other. Then comes conclusion. Since you've given arguments on both sides, in the conclusion part, what you'll do is that in the conclusion part, you'll say, okay, even if the arguments on this side seems really appeasing to all of us, we should be practical about it as well. And it means that we need to make sure that both there is a balance between both. But if given a choice, I would choose this over the other. That could be a sort of conclusion. That is, if you've given 2 arguments on both sides, you're giving a sort of your own headset as to why you should also have some sort of opinion in terms of expecting one side to be better than the other. So that's what conclusion basically is. That is, what do you derive out of it, or what do you come up with, right? It doesn't necessarily always have to be like an answer or a definite answer to which side you are siding to. But the fact is that you should make sure that by the end of it, it should look like that, okay, through your arguments, you're able to derive something out. All right. Now, judges penalize speeches that sound pre-written or memorized, which means if I just come up and like give a speech which is a very monotonous, for example, if I come up and read something like, okay, what is a memorandum of association under section 4 of the company law, etc., etc., that just makes it really boring, guys, right? We want to make it interesting. We want to make it dynamic. The way it becomes dynamic is when you as a speaker are really spontaneous and you are put to spot in the way that you're expected to come up with really interesting things altogether, right? We don't want monotony. We want you to use your creativity to a large extent, right? Cliche motivational speeches, generic content that could be used for any other topic are normally rank lower. So you're not there to come up and motivate anyone as such. You're there as a speaker who just got to know the topic 2 minutes before and is just giving your thought on that. And lastly, speakers should demonstrate quick thinking, audience connection, and clarity in transitions. Transitions basically mean the time between introduction to the body aspect, that is, from the introduction to the arguments, and then from the arguments to the conclusion. Those parts we'll also be evaluating how are you making those transitions. So, for example, a transition could possibly look like that if I'm giving 2 arguments in favor, then I can come up and say, just like this coin for that matter, or just like this sharpener for that matter, everything has 2 sides to it. If we have evaluated one side, let's look at the other side as well. And then I come up with why the other side's arguments really matter, etc., etc. Right? So that is pretty much about impromptu speech. Now let's go to the first optional one that we have. I know a lot of you have doubts. Please lower down your hand. We'll answer those things. For now, our target is to make sure that the session gets over by time. And in case you have doubts, we'll just clarify all of them one by one. Cool. For the optional speech, very simple. For the optional one, the first format that we have is persuasive speech, right? The expectations out of you is pretty simple. I think most of you were really clear about this format yesterday as well, but I'll just reiterate. You have to identify a problem, and it's on you which problem do you identify. There is no theme, nothing for your category, which means we have given you a free hand to decide your topic. We have given you a free hand to come up with your own topic and then give a solution for that. We want you to be really realistic, and we want you to come up with things which are actually something which makes a lot of sense. in a way that you don't always have to solve the biggest problems on earth. You can also come up and solve very minute problems on earth, right? That is also something, because as I've told you, and I think this is also something that we discussed yesterday, is that smaller the problem you find, oftentimes the solution for those things are more practical as compared to the bigger problems that we find around us. Yes, Gayatri.
Uh,
Yep.
there's no question in particular. I think I was unmuted by accident.
Oh, all right, all right. Okay. Now, uh, then, so very simply put, you have to make sure that you are able to identify a problem which other people also find to be a problem, or if you think that, okay, it might take me some time to make them understand that this is actually a real problem, I'll take some time to explain that then, and then I'll come up and, like, for example, there are multiple issues on earth. One issue could also possibly look like, okay, since I am someone who's currently studying law, I would say an issue of religious practices with essentiality. So, for example, is bursting crackers on Diwali the right thing or not, etc., etc. All of these things, right? So, these are questions which are very, there is no correct answer to these questions, right? Or say there is no correct answer which is found as such. So if you're able to identify such issues, I think that is also something really interesting, because there are both sides to it. How do you come up with a really good solution which appeases both sides? I think that should be another skill to look into. So very simply put, we have given you a leeway. Find a problem of yours and find a solution which is realistic, actionable, etc. It should not be a solution like, okay, sir, I think a solution for the pollution in Delhi is that we install an air purifier at every house on earth, or on every house which is there in Delhi, which means all those 50 lakh homes which are there in Delhi, let's install an air purifier in all of those houses. Let's not care about the budget at this point. Let it go by 1 lakh crores, or say crores of crores, etc. Right? So I think that's again a very one-sided, or say the unrealistic solution altogether. So very simply put, we want you to be realistic. We want you to make sure that your solutions are specific, and more importantly, something that can be worked on. All right, that is persuasive speech. Then comes the after dinner speech. First thing.
Sir, I'm so
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but can I just ask one question?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
In the persuasive speech, since the speech is almost 8 minutes long, will we be required to memorize it, or will we be allowed to refer to our speech when we read it out? Not read it out,
uh,
when we give it.
Okay, I would say since it's for 8 minutes, uh, you can use the leeway of writing it somewhere and reading it out, but it should not be in such a way that it looks like, oh, you cannot even speak that speech without your paper, right? So it should not be like, okay, you're dependent on it as such. You can probably like keep that sheet around you, and you can just navigate, oh, I've covered the first point, I've covered the second point, I've covered the third point, etc., in that way, but not in a way that you've written everything on that sheet and you're just reading it out from there, right? It's a slight, there
Yeah.
is a slight difference there.
But considering this is online, am I allowed to have the doc open on my laptop or my device rather than having a sheet of it? Or
Trust me, the judges are smart enough to figure out that you're reading it out from a doc.
okay, yeah, got it. Thank you.
Right. All right. Yeah. So very simply put, if I were a judge, I'll just see, okay, or how's your eye movement? If it's like, okay, must be humorous, entertaining while still communicating a meaningful message. Humor must relate to support. See, by the end of it, you can figure out that even if I don't have a sheet of paper, there is still something on my screen which I'm reading out from. And okay, even if I try becoming smart, etc., etc. So it's fine. Like you can write those things on the doc, but don't write everything down. Just write the headings, cover those headings, give it your explanation. I think that's what matters more than anything else, right? And trust me, for 99.9% of times, your impromptu speeches are much better, or the things that you make up at that given point are much better as compared to anything that you've written beforehand, right? That's at least my experience for debating as such, which says that it's better to be on spot as compared to, just be uh, there to just come up and read a speech which is prepared. All right. Now, for the after dinner speech, The most important part that we're looking for is that since you're taking our time while we are eating sweets or dessert, whatever, you should be humorous, right? Must be humorous, entertaining while still communicating a meaningful message, right? So it's probably like the way you do a movie, right? You are humorous, you are entertaining, while by the end of it, you also give a message. That doesn't mean that you have to do a lot of actions, jingles, etc., etc. You have to be very cunning in terms of your own voice, and more importantly, you have to be very smart in delivering those things down. So this optional format is for the ones who really don't want to bring those very big, big world issues on earth, etc., and want something which is very light-hearted, which is something which is very interesting, etc., etc., right? For those, I think after dinner speeches are probably the way to go ahead. Humor may include satire, anecdotes, irony, character work, etc., but that doesn't require you props or actions, etc., right? Of course, I can make voice modulation, right? I can be Trump and be like, oh, you know what, I really don't care about the environment, we want tariffs, right? You can probably do that, that's fine, but I don't require props or actions for it. All right. Audience address must be capable of receiving a speech within the fictional logic of the speech. Okay, Divit.
Yeah. So, sir, I didn't have like a doubt related to after dinner speaking. Should I ask you right now, or should I ask you a little later after you're done with this?
I think once we're done with it.
All right, sure.
Yep, Kavya.
Will this speech have to be memorized or can we refer to notes?
Okay, imagine this. If you are one of the members on the dinner table, along with a lot of other people, along with me, and if I am reading out it from a sheet of paper, would you feel connected? Probably not, I would assume, right? So it is preferable again if you don't read it out from a sheet of paper. But again, all of us are humans, all of us are not people who would memorize every single thing on earth. Smart strategy again is to probably write the headlines of whatever you're trying to cover around somewhere and then go ahead with it. All
Sir,
right.
So
I
again, what
also had another question for interpretive reading. Are we going to cover that next?
For interpretation, okay, we'll do that in a while. Like once we're done with all the formats, we'll open the flow for questions.
Okay.
Cool. For interpretive reading, yes. Okay then. Roles and speech expectation. I think this format is probably the format that everyone is looking forward to a lot more than debating, and I hate that fact because I'm someone who comes from the debating category, or I lean towards the debating category more. But again, for the ones who are here for the interpretative reading, very simple. First of all, provide a brief introduction about the title, author, and the context of the excerpt, which means it's not like all of a sudden you're coming up with Etu Brutus or Etu Brut or etc. like that. Just give some context as to what are you talking about, or what are you even referring to, or what are you coming up with, right? Give that context, and more importantly, don't just give context for the sake of it. Give context also in a way which builds some amount of excitement to the ones who are listening to you, right? So yeah, context first. Second, performance is a reading, not a memorized dramatic monologue. That means here, you are not expected to memorize your speech. Here, we want you to read from whatever source you're reading it from. We want you to come up and like read it out just the way you would normally read anything, because it's not something that you've yourself written. It's something we are deriving out of someone else's writing. So if that's the case, this activity is entirely a reading activity wherein you would come up with your own interpretations in between, right? Use vocal techniques to reveal meaning, pace, tone variation, emphasis, and character distinction. This is something that was often asked, I think, in yesterday's class, if I remember, that sir, is character distinction through tone variation and all of these things, do they count as, say, dramatization? So there is a very fine line here. The fine line is that, again, if the only thing that your character is defined by is just by its tone, then it's wrong. But if it's tone along with the content that it brings in, that's something that we look forward to.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
sir, my daughter Navika, she'll be joining after 5 minutes. Like she's not at home, sir.
Right.
The meeting was about to start from 7:30, na?
Oh, ma'am, right now we are with the senior category. For the junior category, we'll start at 7:30.
So in the same meeting group,
Yeah,
na
in the
sir?
same meeting, yes.
Okay, okay, sir. Yeah, okay.
All right. Yeah. So use your vocal techniques in such a way that you're able to pace and you're able to use the tone variation properly, but make sure it doesn't become the only thing within your entire speech or your entire reading altogether. Right. So make sure that you're able to make this thin line and use it in your favor to a large extent. Right. You don't have to dramatize anything as such. We're not marking you for drama at all. All right, now here is again another thing, how to do a good delivery. Really simple. First of all, voice, that is basically how you sound. Use variations, pitch, volume, and maintain an audience engagement altogether. I would say, I think a very smart strategy here is to always look at the judge, read their facial expressions, and just see whether they're bored of you or not. Probably the fact that you make your judge engaged for that given point of time is what we are largely looking for, or what they will mark you on, right? That whether you're able to make them listen to you for that given point of time. Pause strategically, emphasize important ideas, and allow impact. Second, body language. That is how you appear. Stand with a stable posture and purposeful and not excessive movement, etc. So it should not be like or something like that. Uh, Stand with a stable posture again and just deliver your speech properly. Then comes use gestures that support meaning rather than distract from it. Right? Eye contact, facial expressions, confidence. I think all of these things are things that we have discussed quite a lot now. So I don't think we have to discuss it again and again. All right. Uh, this is basically for how do you find or how do you research well. First of all, for your research, try finding credible sources of academic studies, expert reports, and reputable journalists, or say things which are really reputed for that matter, and prioritize current and verifiable information. Right, this is more important towards the format of, say, persuasive speech, wherein you have to make sure that you're relevant and the information that you're bringing is also verified to a large extent, right? It should not be like an information that, oh sir, I think for pollution we can bring something that China did, and all of a sudden when I ask you what does China actually do, so China has installed air purifiers everywhere around China. Okay, that should not be, that's not a verifiable information. That is something that we want you to check whether the solutions that you're also bringing, whether they're verified or not.
Yes, sir.
Then comes depth and relevance. Just a second. Then comes depth and relevance. That is, what information do you choose? Make sure quality over quantity at any given point of time. Make sure that you have more depth as compared to having more volume to anything as such. Fact verification, organization, and verbal attributions. I think these are things that you guys are very much well versed with. All right. So yeah. Again, I think this is something that we've already discussed. Introduction, body, and conclusion. This is what we call as the IBC method for any speech. So for any speech, mostly the structure looks like what we call as an IBC method. That is introduction, body, and conclusion. That is, in the introduction part, you come up, you tell what the topic is about of your speech, etc., and you build some sort of excitement. In the body aspect, you give your arguments here, right? And in the conclusion, you give what do you derive out of all of this. All right. So yeah, I think all these things are pretty much covered already. These are a few examples. You can just go through these examples. These slides would be shared with all of you. So yeah. With that, I think we are pretty much done. Here are a few examples for the persuasive speech as well. Yes. So with that, let's now come to the questions. Let's start with Vedanshi. Yes, Vedanshi.
Good evening, sir. Okay, so first of all, this is my first time attending an event as such. So I had a doubt regarding the formality of of this event. Like, how on a scale can you just explain to me how formal am I supposed to be in my speeches? Like in a parliamentary debate, sometimes people make us like slightly offensive points as such. So, first of all, is that allowed? And secondly, I joined this group today. So, can you please just reshare any recording or any PDF shared previously? And just lastly, as for the reading, is there any like certain limitations to the text that I can select to read? Because some topics are a little more mature for reading. So, kindly just specify that also. Thank you.
All right. For the first question, I think you are not at all supposed to be offensive in any which shape or form. It's a platform that all of us share. More importantly, all of us are a part of a community. It's a debating community, right? We want to make sure that it's a safe space for everyone. In that case, we would, of course, not want any of you to be offensive to any of us in any which shape or form. That's point one. Point two about, say, what was the second question about again?
The second question was about in the reading. What are the limitations as to the text? Like, can
Oh,
we discuss slightly sensitive topics?
right. So, yes, you can, of course. There are things which you can bring which are slightly on the part of being a bit bold in that sense. But again, make sure that it doesn't cross the line where it makes the other person uncomfortable or say the judge uncomfortable altogether, right? So, again, you're free to use it, but use it in a way that it benefits you as compared to you thinking that there are chances for it to backfire altogether, right? So I would say
Okay, sir.
it's better
Thank
if
you.
to play a bit safe here. Yeah. Can we have Shaurya then?
Okay, so I have one question actually. Now, talking about this is related to debate. Is there any sort of penalization if we speak less than 5 minutes? And I wanted to know about the marking regarding POIs. Are they on average basis or absolute basis, and any limitation to asking POIs? Thank you.
All right. For the first question, that is there any limitation to ask POIs? There is no limitation as such, but once your POI is declined, or say if you have raised your hand and I, as a speaker, say that you are not supposed to, okay, I'm not taking any POIs, you're not supposed to ask them another POI at least till 30 seconds from that rejection point itself. So that's point one. Point two about the way you're going to be marked on POIs. It's really simple. For POIs, the way you're going to be marked is that there is no additional point or additional marking for POIs. It's within the speaker's content part where you get evaluated. So you as a POI asker or say the one who's asking for POI is not getting marked as such. It's the speaker who would be marked. Then why do we even take POI, sir? The answer to this question is that it just increases the engagement within the debate, right? It allows the speaker to be able to, engage with the other side in a bit more extensive way through their POIs. So yeah. Okay, can we have Gayatri now?
Yeah. So for the interpretive reading, so let's say I choose something, like I finish reading out. After that, do I say my interpretation on the reading, like my interpretation on whatever I've just read out? How
Yeah.
does it work?
Yes, so that is expected out of you. That is, once you read the entire thing, or once, even if you want to like do it in between, again, 9 minutes are all yours. You are the master of the universe for those 9 minutes. If that's the case, then what you're expected to do is to make sure that within those 9 minutes, you keep the judge engaged with the part that you're explaining them, right? It might be in the way that you give the entire thing and then explain, or you can explain in between. It's entirely up to you. All right. Uh, okay. Can we have Stuti here? Yes, Stuti.
So my first doubt is like in a 3v3 debate, of course the medium of like speaking is English, but like can we use proverbs and something else from some other language as well and explain it like if we're an intro or like conclusion round?
This is for which format?
The 3v3 debate.
For the 3v3 debate, no. You are not supposed to.
Okay, and for persuasive speaking?
For persuasive speaking as well, I don't think it requires it as much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Last two questions, post which we have to start with the junior batch. Because again, the juniors are actually requesting now to start ASAP. All right, I'll take two more questions. I'll take one from Samarth, I'll take one from Sia. The rest of you can write your questions on chat.
Okay, just for the impromptu round, would we be having to explain like both sides, just to clarify, like both sides of the argument, and then in the end, explain our perspective?
Yep, you can do that. Entirely up to you whether you would like to go ahead with it or not. Or sometimes we are not able to get the other side's argument, so we just go with one side. Again, it's like the time that is given is entirely yours. How do you want to use it? It's entirely on you.
Thank you.
So, is this a junior category going on?
Yes, Matul, we are just about to start in next 2 minutes for the junior category. Right now, it's your seniors who are
Okay, sir.
yeah. All right. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Is is there a limitation to how above or beyond we can go beyond it for the time limit?
I think it's important if you stick to the time limit to a level that you don't exceed it more than 15 seconds. And for the formats where you're given 1 minute of grace, make sure that you don't exceed the grace minute at all.
Got it. Thank you.
No worries, yeah. Okay, Kavya asks that is spending as much as half our time in reading on commentary allowed? It's allowed, it's completely allowed, and it's on you. How do you want to divide the time between explanation and the commentary? Yes, Raghav.
Yes, sir. So, I wanted to just ask that you just said, like, for the first person who asked that doubt, that quote unquote sensitive subjects are to be avoided for interpretive reading, right? But in the finals of WD of this competition, people did interpretive reading on texts that talked about child abuse, that talked about borderline harassment, and alluded to rape and stuff.
Right.
So, where do you draw the line between sensitive topics?
So a lot of times this is I think something that I wanted to address is that one is bringing out sensitive topics, the other is while you're explaining how aware or how sensitive you are while you're explaining that topic. There is a fine line here. You can bring topics which might be a bit disturbing for a few of them, but the way you explain it is something that matters more than anything.
Okay, and also I just want, like, I know this is a very basic question, but what should be our course of action if, like, say, the third speaker brings in a new argument?
Again, for the third speaker bringing any new argument, it's not allowed mostly. So you can just say that it's since this is an argument which comes specifically in their third speech, we don't want that to be counted.
We can just ignore.
Yeah, you can ignore.
And also, lastly, there is no incentive for us to ask POIs.
No, no incentives as such.
So we will not be penalized if we ask no POIs.
Yeah. But again, it's better if you keep it engaging.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
In the impromptu speech, is it more of metaphorical argumentation on the lines of debate like prop and op? Not really. It's about